Welcome back. This is part 3 of our talk with Vegas legend Lenny Del Genio. All right, we left off in part 2 talking about, and I actually just recently read Bill Gates, the Microsoft guy, say, today I wouldn't even be hired by Microsoft because he was a Harvard dropout. And I think that's interesting as education becomes more important, is some people with the street smarts don't even get an opportunity today where they have to start their own business, where back in the day those people would have been hired to run sports books.
Yep, you're entirely correct. The innovative part of being in the race and sportsbook industry has been buried under the weight of management with multiple degrees and master's degrees. The basic problem is that they have distanced themselves from the public because the accounting end of it is just purely numbers, and from a betting perspective, they're better off not having table games, not having race and sports books, having machines out there that you can pull a handle on, no wages, no supervisory, some cameras, and it becomes much more important for them.
So you're saying, and you make an interesting point, is with sports books, you've got a relatively low theoretical hold, you've got a beatable game because it's not purely random, you've got HR expenses with the ticket writers and all that. And then as you move down the line with blackjack and the table games, you don't have, it's not really beatable, though blackjack might be for a handful of people, but you still have the HR expense. Now you move to machines, you have no HR expense.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's the hierarchy of desirability for the owner of the casino.
Absolutely. It's less risk, less expensive, and let me say a word that is, there's no gamble. You should understand gambling means sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. As an executive, they don't want to hear the word lose. They want to have the win percentage being consistent. And that affects how you operate. So no one's willing to take a chance. Mediocrity rules. It rules because that's what they reward. They don't reward the innovator that can fail and then fix it and make money.
So tell us about 2 or 3 guys that you dealt with back pre-1990 that maybe today wouldn't even, like you said, get a job, but they were actually innovators.
Sonny Reizner.
All right, so tell us about Sonny.
Sonny, great man. Comes out of Boston, is a jeweler, also a bookmaker. Runs the Castaways for years. Sonny Reizner put up the line on Who Shot JR out of Dallas. Now, we forget that Dallas was an internationally, worldwide watched soap opera.
Now, JR kind of was my hero growing up.
A lot of people's hero, to be honest. But when Sonny put up the line, he didn't go to the attorneys to find out if the regulations would let him take the bets on if JR killed him or not, who shot JR. Sonny put it up. 3 days later, people were betting. Sonny had to refund the money. Gaming made him give back the bets because you could only take a bet on a sporting event, and they didn't figure that JR getting shot was a sporting event. Now, that was unique. Sonny did the contest, King of the Hill. Sonny did the first handicapping contest in the state.
Now, let me jump in. We talked about Jimmy Vaccaro. This shows you how creative Jimmy is, though today is, in theory, you wouldn't be able to bet who LeBron was going to play for before that season started. But Jimmy came up with saying, well, the bet is what team is LeBron going to score his first points for?
Exactly.
Which is, it has to be on the field in Vegas.
Jimmy is one of those people that I have to mention with Sonny, Jimmy, Bob Gregorka, Ray Lindsay, Brandy Brandenburg.
So let's jump back to Sonny, but I just wanted to make a point that the guys who try to be innovative today are fighting all this regulation here in Nevada that makes it very difficult. Yeah. But tell us more about Sonny.
Well, and Sonny was a kind man. Sonny was everybody's friend and would do things that were unique to Las Vegas. And at the time, people were flying in from all over the world to bet into the football contest, because there'd never been a football contest.
All right, so what was the first football contest?
It was the King of the Hill, and then the one that he had that was even more popular was the one just like they have at the Hilton today. You have to pick so many teams for the whole season. The guy with the most wins walks away with the money.
All right, so Sonny created the first contest.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Anything else on him, or you want to move on?
No, you got to move on. Brandy Brandenburg ran places. The Maxim. Maxim's not even there. It's part of the MGM. Ray Lindsay was at the Stardust when our friends were there. Ray Lindsay did a lot of things, and he was very, very good in horse racing and in sports. And Bob Gregorka changed a lot of things. People either love him or hate him in this town. And Bob's a good friend, one of my best friends. But they were unique in their ability to institute new stuff. Jimmy Vaccaro. Johnny Avello today is the last. Johnny worked with us, not because he's a friend, not because he played on the original Aces baseball team that we all played on, but because Johnny comes from the school out of Poughkeepsie where you have to be innovative. You have to do something different than your competitor. Everybody doesn't want ham and eggs. Somebody wants crepes. Somebody wants something else. Johnny's the last one that is allowed to do it, and he has to fight. Although, to be quite honest, the Red Rock does some nice things too, but they're even more restrained, and because of the fiscal times, you can understand some of that with the restructuring that's going on with all of these properties today.
Interesting. So here's my take, and again, my experience with these guys is unfortunately much less than yours. My take is most of these guys very natively intelligent, just bright guys, workers. They want to get the job done. And innovators, as in they're not going to take the way things are now and say, well, that's the way things are supposed to be. They're always looking for new things.
And they were betters.
They
were all betters. They all bet in the beginning. They may have stopped betting as they got older or slowed it down, but they were all betters. So they understood when that kid come running in and wanted to make his first $5 parlay on the team in total on Monday night. They knew what that felt like.
They didn't have to read the market research.
No,
they were the market.
That was the market.
They were the market.
Yeah.
And actually, a book that's made the rounds recently, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, talks about the 10,000 hour rule, where you really can't be great at something till you do it for 10,000 hours. Now that's something that I'm proud of, though I don't think my mom is I started betting sports when I was 14. So I literally, my whole life in high school, or a big chunk of it was about sports betting. And now that it's 25 plus years later, it's something where it's in my bones. And what I hear you saying is a lot of these guys grew up at about the same age betting sports, and that made the difference when they reached their executive careers. It was in their bones.
These guys were so dedicated. They would read. They would go to the public library. This is pre-computer. Not because they were reading books. They were looking at the sports pages from Detroit, from Chicago, from New York, from Philly, and handicapping off of it. They really were. And as kids, we did that too.
Because the information wasn't as readily available.
No, it wasn't.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you this. It's easy to romanticize these guys, and I think there's some validity to that. But also, there probably were some limitations. So and we're going to be touching on that in other videos, ultimately became the sportsbook director at Bally's, and you were at the top of the pyramid, and you had to deal with the guys in the top floor office, and that were the CEOs and such. What is it about some of these older guys that makes it where it doesn't really seem viable? Because you would think one of these casinos would say, screw it, we're going to go old school, we're going to put Jimmy V or we're going to put whoever in and let him do what he wants, but no one makes that decision. Is it all because, seemingly at this point no one's making it, is it because they're just so scared, the suits are so scared and they're so beholden to spreadsheets, or is it that these guys, though they had a lot of positives, they also had limitations?
The world's changed, JR. There's algorithms out there.
We were talking about JR. So it's
RJ,
JR.
JR and RJ. There are algorithms out there now. People are significantly more computer savvy. They know how to build their own power rating systems. They can base it on algorithms. They can base it on the best information getting done immediately, and they don't have an overhead to pay. The old guys, some of them couldn't make the transition to today's world because they booked to faces. They booked to the high-end play. They booked to the wise guy. They knew where it was going. Now, to be quite honest, almost everybody's a wise guy. They're not taking bad numbers. They know where the number is going to go. They anticipate what's happening, and there are too many of them out there to overcome. So by that I mean you can't get anybody to lay the 7.5, taking it back at the 6.5.
Okay.
You can't get enough money to offset it. It's a difficult time right now. I think the casinos are making a mistake because there are other ways that you could still make it exciting. And I think Jimmy Vaccaro and Johnny are the last guys that are willing to risk their careers.
All right, so you're making an interesting point, and I love the sober way we're looking at this. Is there's a lot of things to really respect from those old guys, but a lot of it was because the marketplace was so unsavvy that they could take chances and they wouldn't get hurt too bad. Now you're saying there's less room for error when it comes to taking the chances, and thus the guys who are computer driven and like the accountants with the green eye shades are necessary. But I also hear you saying even within the realities of those necessities, there could still be more creativity.
Yeah, I think that they're missing the boat on it. And I think the financial times that we're in have even made it harder. When these corporations continue to grow and create these big conglomerates, they then decide that they don't want to take risk. They then decide that they're not going to be in the gambling business. They then decide that they're going to continually and passionately restrict the ability to make a loss. So as the public gets smarter, the PC comes down, wages went up, taxes went up, Social Security went up, the ability to run your electrical went up, everything become more expensive. And because everybody's counting the money legitimately, there's no money with the first count going in someone's pocket, and then a second count going to somebody else's pocket, and then the third count going to the state and the taxes being paid on. So because that's not there in today's world, margins have shrunk significantly, and maybe they're to some degree they're right, but they've like everything else, the pendulum swung too far. It needs to come back. We need the Jimmy Vaccaros in the business. We thank God Johnny's still there. They should try to hire Bobby. I don't know if he'd come out of retirement, and I'm not even thinking about it.
All right, so what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to talk about the rest of your career on the sportsbook side.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, this is a treat for us because as much as we understand what's going on now, and I think that the marketplace being sharper, I hope pregame.com has a little something to do with it. But the fact is the experience you have, there's a dozen or 2 dozen people in the world that have it. So thank you. And we're going to pick right back up and talk about the rest of Lenny's career behind the counter.